Good morning, everyone. This is Brad Matheny. Today is the 3rd of September. Had to check as we went through the holiday weekend. We're looking at an inside breakaway pattern on the SPY cycle patterns. Now, what happened to that Harami inside pattern yesterday? I mean, really huge gap down, big breakaway. Market seems to be rallying today, up a bit, up about a 0.5%. And puts the opening somewhere maybe up in this area. Big volume. We're getting really an unwinding cycle phase here. You can see down here with this cycle trend or this increasing volume. Let me move this out of the way. So we're getting increasing volume again. Really, kind of moving into this breakdown mode. I would still say that generally we're getting slightly bullish. Let's take a look here. Shrink this up a little to see how we had this increasing bearish trending here with volume, then a little bit of bearish trending here. If we get a big breakdown today with bigger selling volume over here, this would be very indicative of a breakdown mode. Right now, I'd say we're kind of mixed. So, uh, you know, really just holding, seeing what happens. The SPY shows that it's up 50% pre-market. The SPX 500 shows it's up 10%. A NASDAQ up show, or not 10%, 0.17. NASDAQ shows it's up 0.30 or 0.3%. In my opinion, this looks like a pretty solid volatile rotation. So where we're at today, and where I think we're going with this, I would urge you to consider still the downward trending. We talked about this yesterday. I drew these lines. I'll try to just highlight them again here. I kind of really think that we could be looking at these types of structures. So just try to highlight these a bit for you. We could be looking at these types of structures moving downward here in a bigger rotation, maybe retesting the 626. It's kind of tough to tell right here, to be honest with you. Let me check out the crash index. Save this real quick. Big move down like that could have changed a few things. 80.74. It is moving downward. Nothing major. SPY with a big gap down. Gold breaking up. So you see here on the crash index, we don't have any big breakdown yet. So I'll break this out over here. We don't have any big breakdown in trend yet. The dominant U.S. market is still in play. Now we are extremely overbought. This could be an overbought retracement moving back down in the 620, 625 area. But we're looking for clarity. We've certainly rejected off of this high as of yesterday, and we'll see how this holds up if we get more deep selling today. I would think that after this big recovery back to the upside overnight, we would look to possibly see some more selling over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 trading days into next week, maybe back down into this 625, 626, 627 area. Again, my opinion is the markets are unwinding here. We do get into that counter trend breakaway. We'll see what happens. That's Thursday. Carryover, blank, consolidation, inside crush pattern. Momentum rally here in counter trend, inside breakaway. So we do look like we're moving into moderate downward trending. We did move bearish as of yesterday. At this point, not much on the upside. And I think we're going to be moving into, like I said, September, October, moving downward into my October lows. So we'll see how this plays out. Big rotation and trend. Now, it could be kind of like this, where we rally back out of it. We shall see. Honestly, we shall see. It's just right now we're still in that consolidation range. I see this as generally weaker. I see it as likely moving through this channel and a pullback trend. And we'll just have to wait and see how it goes here. See if anything else breaks to the downside. This was a pretty big move yesterday. And again, it's on either tariff news or global economic news, but this is a pretty big breakdown, a pretty sudden move to the downside. We'll see if it has any follow through or not after this deep bottom. The only thing that I can tell you is this recovery volume here, just like we had right here, looks, fairly substantial. So this could very well be kind of a recovery mode in the sense that we could see some moderate bounce here before we intend to move downward or in another trend. So we'll see how it plays out. Now, gold and silver are attempting to rally again. Now, gold up at 36.14, silver up at 41.70. I mentioned something yesterday about how I thought silver could potentially. Let me try to get into this mode. I guess I'll have to go to daily. These are 10-minute. So I mentioned yesterday how I thought silver could attempt to move up to this 42.80, 42.70 area, and gold could attempt to move up to this 36.28. We're almost there with gold. I mean, gold is about ready to make that move right now, and silver could very easily roll right into this rally phase up into this 42.80. Now, I pulled some profits yesterday up here near these highs. I left a couple of positions on, and I set up a couple of market orders for call options today, rolling these into a contract. Should have probably bought them yesterday, but was expecting a little bit of a pullback overnight. And look at this rally. I mean, we're really getting very strong rally in volume. This is a huge breakaway move, indicative of some sort of a potential topping pattern here, like we had back over here. But, this is what I told you. I think this is a very strong breakaway. 36, 37, maybe 3,800 to the upside, whereas I think 42 to 44 is a pretty common level here for silver to get above. But I'm being very cautious of this move. It won't last forever. Eventually gold is going to move into that stalling pattern. So if it were to come up here, eventually it's going to stall out a bit and then try to rally again. So understand that we are going to get that stalling pattern eventually in gold and silver, which is going to play out based on my predictions back over here. This one changed again, but come over here and look at this mode. As we're rallying here, we're going to potentially rally up into this 37, maybe 36, 37, 3,800 area, and then stall for probably, 5, 6, 7, 10 days. So be prepared. We've had the big rally, just like I predicted. We're moving through that expansion phase. Once we get up here above probably 36.70, 36.80, we're going to stall out somewhere up in this area and then set up a nice base, rolling right over here and roll back to the upside. So this is kind of your zone to pick things back up again once we hit this topping pattern over here. Okay, the gold cycle pattern for today is a top resistance in counter trend. So technically this should be a bottom. And then we have a breakdown mode, and then we have a rally mode. So we could rally through the entire week, moving into a crush pattern on Sunday, gap potential, top resistance. And this could be some volatility next week. But again, we have a top resistance in counter trend mode, which would be a bottom. We're in bullish explosive trending. As much as I'm warning that we could be getting, close to this topping pattern, I want you to understand that gold is in a very explosive mode, and gold could continue to push higher, which means that our sideways flagging formation could be much higher in this area So 3,800, 3,900, maybe even 4,000 is not off the table right now, as long as this rally continues. If this rally continues with strong volume like this, if we continue to get stronger volume, we could see gold rally above 3,900, 4,000, which would be stupendous, would be wonderful. I would feel vindicated after this long consolidation channel, expecting it to break. I mean, you're talking April, May, June, July, August. Finally, at the end of August, it took off. But, that's trading. Sometimes you're a little ahead of the market. That. Okay. Let's move over here to Bitcoin. Oh, the gold cycle patterns. We took a look at that, right? Yep, we did. Okay. Bitcoin, flat down pattern and trending. We had a little bit of a recovery. See where we're at with Bitcoin. Fairly flat right now. Still in that downward channel, the yellow channel. I would suggest that we're probably moving back into that downward zone after this resistance. You can see that we're, in that support resistance flag low area, which I kind of drew across here. So we're kind of back into that flag low zone right over in this area. And I think that this is an area of basically support and resistance. This is an area that the market is going to, the Bitcoin is going to essentially try to bounce and revert to until we get some breakdown mode. Now, a breakdown in Bitcoin would likely coincide with a breakdown in the major markets and potentially a rally in gold. So, I am curious to see what's going on here. We do have a flat down pattern after the top resistance pattern. The top resistance pattern yesterday could very well be this, topping scenario right here. In other words, here's our potential peaking pattern setting up, which would lead to a potential breakdown in trending. We'll see. At this point, I think really the 109 600 area. I'll mark it here. Is kind of the area we've got to watch. I see this as obviously in a downtrend, breaking to new lows, struggling to get higher. If we were to roll over downward here, I think that you would see a pretty strong move down into the 105 area, 104 maybe, and it would continue the downward trend. Now, we're looking here, the dollar's back up a bit, which is going to put a little pressure on metals. Hasn't yet. I think the demand, the decoupling of the U.S. markets to global markets is what's driving some of this. The U.S. economy is still the 900-pound gorilla, but gold is coming up fast as its crazy uncle, let's call it, uncle gorilla or cousin gorilla, whatever you want to call it. The world is moving towards gold, and we're really looking for metals to become a proper hedge for risk. So you can see we've got oil breaking down again. This is daily. Oil moving back to the downside is a pretty good sign that we're moving into a contagion or kind of a risk phase here. We have gold obviously moving higher. Big breakout rally. Maybe talking 4,000, 3,800, 3,700 for gold. You can see that we've got the German index collapse yesterday. The European index, the UK 100 collapsed a bit yesterday. Fairly strong volume. Look at this volume down here. Japanese index collapsed yesterday. Not so bad, but heavy volume. Euro US dollar down yesterday. And really, we're getting a pretty good indication that the markets are rolling. Now, a couple of things going on here I wanted to share with you. Natural gas is building a pretty solid base here. Nothing to scream and shout and jump up and down a bit about. but we're building that nice solid base. So we're getting kind of into this mode here. Whoops. We're kind of getting into this mode here with this low volume building a base here. We've had that very low bottom building a base right here. Could very well see a move start to accelerate up here to the upside. I've talked about this many times about how, natural gas tends to want to bottom at some point. In fact, it's easier to see it over here on a weekly chart. Get rid of these. Tends to want to bottom around that July, August, September area and can be a very powerful rally. Okay, here's another little July mode. Here's another little June, July mode rally. Here's another little June, July rally. This one actually carried all the way up. And then back here, a little rally. 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 So, given what I see here, this extreme deep low around 2020, and then this kind of inverted head and shoulders formation right here, I kind of think that we could be looking at, and this is a good example of the Fibonacci extension. I kind of think we could be looking at, a 1.5 to 1.6 extension, which would put us up in this area, very possibly up in this area. And again, that would put us with natural gas off of this low up about 100% to maybe 165% on a big rally. And what would be critical at this point is that we would need to see the rally get above this 618 level, so 4.70, 4.66. I think that would be our line in the sand for a real solid breakout. Now, remember, even getting up to that level from where we're at down in here, that's still a 61% rally. But I think once we get above that, if we get a big rally, we could get, a big breakaway rally up into this area. I think the disruption in the global markets that I talk about could play out as a really big move in natural gas this year. So pay attention. This could be a really big opportunity if my research is correct. There's only been a couple of times in history when we've seen these massive rallies, and they tend to come off of kind of inverted head and shoulders formations. So you can see here, we get this little roll like this, and then we finally get this big rally. Then we get this little roll here, we get this rally. These are going way back, guys, 2008, 2009. Okay, here's another roll. Finally break the neckline and take off. So where's our neckline here? Our neckline would be right across here pretty much. And what we would be looking at is any move roughly above 350, and we're at $3 right now, would be a break of that neckline and likely start to take off. Same kind of thing here. The neckline here came right across this area. Whoops. And the neckline here came right across roughly this area. So you can see what I'm talking about here. If we do get this little inverted head and shoulders formation, breaking the neckline, the rally mode here would be here, and then potentially here, and then potentially here. Big, big opportunity here in UNG. Huge opportunity. This is 160 point rally. 160, 170 point rally or percent rally. Think about what that would do to your options. 1,000, 2,000%, maybe. So we'll just have to see how it goes and play this rally. Now, these natural gas rallies, they can last multiple years. So be aware that if we get into a disruption for natural gas into Europe or into the US for whatever reason, we could see natural gas prices skyrocket related to a global disruption or some other issue. Very strong winter. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm going to let you guys go here, 20 minutes. This is the SPY chart. Once it loads, we have broken down. So remember, we have broken out of this upward flagging phase of the excess phase peak pattern. So again, depending on what happens here, pre-market, I need you to understand that we are in a breakdown mode. Potentially, we are looking for a potential longer term breakdown. You can see right here, there's the bullish flagging pattern. We have broken down. This would technically be potentially the start of a new breakdown phase or a new excess phase peak pattern, potentially rolling down into some deeper low, potentially setting up some sort of a flagging formation. Don't know how deep it's going to get yet. My theory is that we're going to get into this 540, 560 area on that October low, maybe a bit lower. We will see, but early stage topping, we need to see confirmation. Remember that 621 level is kind of right now the one I highlighted yesterday or over the weekend, saying that's our line in the sand. And we'll see if we get any follow through in this downtrend. In the meantime, like I said, plenty to trade, but this is a big warning of this breakdown with very heavy volume that we could literally see a massive breakdown if this continues below the 610 615 area eventually. But we'll see how it plays out. All right, guys, a little comment. Found out a couple weeks ago that I lost one of my programmer buddies, the guy that actually wrote the first version of TradeStation, which at the time was System Writer Plus. I don't know if you remember him or know him, Samuel Tennis. My buddy, I've spent a lot of time with Sam. He's a great guy, was a great guy. Apparently, he'd been battling cancer and passed away a couple of weeks ago. Just prayers and thoughts. Remember, life is precious. Keep good people around you. Sam was always such a great guy. Tell you a funny story real quick. So, after I left Gary, my partner, a long time ago, back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, Sam and I were both trying to build our little consulting businesses, and Sam and I had spent many days, many nights, let's call them, hanging up because we always did it at midnight or 11 till 4 a.m. We all never worked during the day. We went and did things and had fun, and then worked at night. Programmer, right? Give us a coffee or caffeine and let us work at night. But anyway, so what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to go do this trade show in Vegas, the Traders World Conference, I think it was called, in Vegas. And I called Sam up and told him, hey, Sam, I paid for the booth, I paid for everything, I got the hotel rooms. I'm going to have a little show. Come on out and help me if you want. Let's market your business as well. And because Sam had always been such a great guy, always helped out. So I wanted to help him out a little bit. I figured I paid for everything. Might as well ask my buddy to join me. Now, Sam lived in Florida, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And this was 3 days or 4 days before the event. I figured Sam would grab his laptop and jump on an airplane, round trip to Vegas, maybe, $200-300, and show up. He was super excited. He said he'd do it, no problem. And then he told me he was going to drive it from Fort Walton Beach, Florida to Vegas in 3 or 4 days, right? Okay, well, yeah, you can do that. It's a long drive, but no big deal. So I called him the next day and tried to convince him to get on an airplane. He said no, he'd rented a car. He's picking it up that night. This was now 3 days, not even 3 days to get to Vegas. So he told me later that there was a problem. He didn't get the car. He's going to get it the next day. Now we got basically 20 or 48 hours to get to Vegas from Fort Walton Beach. Now I know you can do it. Sam left Fort Walton Beach, Florida, with like 37 hours to go before the event, loaded up, ready to go. And I was worried like mad that he wasn't going to have a problem staying up all night. I mean, that's a long drive. That's, I don't want to do the math, but I would say that's, 2,600 miles in about a day. That's a long drive, folks, at high speeds, almost like Cannonball Run. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and so Sam, I get to Vegas, I get set up, get the booth put together, waiting for my friend. I turn around after about maybe an hour or two, sitting there early morning, the first day of the event, and there's Sam, smiling at me, right behind me, happy as a lark to be there, tired as can be. Told me the whole story. He rented a 5.0 Mustang back in the day and rushed out there. Had only slept for 2.5 hours in the middle of the New Mexico desert. He said it was beautiful, and he had a convertible and loved it. Sam was one of those, I don't want to call him a hippie kind of a guy, but he was a little um he's more like a nature kid kind of. But anyway, and Sam showed up happy as could be, told me the whole thing. I told him, hey, here's your room key, go get cleaned up if you want, take a shower, come back down. He's like, no, I'm fine. So we'd worked that whole day. I mean, I don't know where Sam got the energy, but just the idea that he's smiling and carrying on about traveling for 30 some hours straight and then working another 5, 6, 7 hours, enjoying everything. So later that night, we went to the room, told Sam to clean up, get ready. And I took him out to the Caesar's buffet at the time, crab and, lobster and whatever else you wanted. And it was just, that's Sam. If you get people in your life that are like that, that'll come no matter what, back you up, and just smiling, trying to make the world better. Hold on to those people. All I can tell you is, I've got a bunch of them around me, my family, my friends, some cohorts. The long and short of it, when you get people like that in your life, they're gifts from God, and they might not always be the easiest to handle, but man, you really learn to appreciate them as you get older, and you learn to appreciate their optimism. I got a message from his son just this morning. That's why I'm talking about it. And his son put it as his indomitable optimism. And that was Sam. He could have been, you know, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but he could have been in a lot of crazy trouble. And he would look at you and smile and say, we're going to be just fine. Don't worry about it. And that was Sam. We'll just get through it. Head down, get through it. Here, have another drink. And of course, Sam did like to drink a bit. So anyway, tributes to my friend Sam Tennis. He went by the name of Mr. Easy Language. He was the creator of TradeStation. Not many people know this, but when Bill Cruz, the founder of TradeStation, started the business, it was just him, Bill Cruz, and Sam Tennis working in a little apartment in Miami, from what I understand. And Sam was the creator, the original programmer for TradeStation. He was the guy that built the biggest trading platform on the planet. We should always remember him because great guy, incredibly brilliant, always giving, always smiling, always happy, and like I said, just loved essentially everybody. So tribute to my buddy Sam. I'm going to let you go right now. Talk to you later.